Alright, Agnieszka, let's resume our interview after the break. Are you getting drunk? Well, slightly intoxicated, let's say. So can you continue the interview? Absolutely. I'm in full control of my thought process. I might have some problems with finding the exact word, or I might get a bit too loud, but otherwise we can continue. So what's your next question? Right, so the next question is, do you feel Scientology is helping you, actually? Certainly I do, otherwise I would not call myself a Scientologist. So how is it helping? I believe that each of us has certain technologies which are like hobby horses. So this is something that you really like doing. And there's actually the datum in Scientology which warns about the hobby horses, because you might be neglecting other things while doing your hobby horses. Actually, in the SCIENTOLOGY, it's listed among, I don't know what's the level of unethicality, but if you do only your hobby horses, it's not correct ethics. But then in your life, you certainly have things which help you more than other things by your own judgment. So in my case, certainly the key concept is the concept of beingness, which is identity plus space. Currently I'm under suppression in both. Space obviously due to other spaces being superimposed on my own personal space, the space that I create, and identity in terms of identities being superimposed on my life. However, being aware of these as the key factors in developing my life. For you have the three concepts which bring with them actual performance in life, that have to do with creating a wonderful life, which is be, do and have. So the idea is that if you want to have something, you must do something to achieve what you want to have. And to do something to achieve what you want to have, you need to become someone or something. In English, the something was, for example, if you want to have an educated society, the least you can do is to teach them. And to teach them, you need to become a teacher. So in English it's what? So as I'm in this terribly difficult situation, and I know that I want to have this alternative world in which I could live, which I have defined, which I have located in this vast universe of all kinds of presences and existences as the noble quintum technicolitania. I put some definitions of what I want to have in this world. So this is my dream. And if I want to have this wonderful Agnipolitanian Academy that would have all that wonderful knowledge I would like to have, and optimally a group of people united in this enthusiasm of acquiring that knowledge, of sharing the experience with the knowledge, of living that kind of life, living that kind of culture, then I need to be creating it. And you know, this is what I actually, the shift I made. So this is an academy. The performance must be at the academic level, and for the performance to be at the academic level, I need to be a professor. So obviously I do not have the qualifications, the formal qualifications. I do not have the competence or the knowledge, but I have assumed the identity. So imagine you are a professor, and now what does it imply in your work on the project? So you start acting from the role, and then step by step you reach a certain standard which is very, very high, and you have a different standard for the school. Like when I have the Agnipolitanian school, this is a different sort of activity, and it comes from a different identity, a different role. So this is one of the idea of the conceptions, which includes certain concepts and certain technology. Obviously, I have some control over the confusion created around me. So I might not have the ability, the spiritual ability to handle the physical occurrences. I believe that at a very high level you really can say, okay, now all this sexuality disappears from my life. And it does. Not by any manipulation, not by any negotiation, by the simple posture. So this is the level. But I'm not at that level yet. Or perhaps I'm not in the habit of acting that way. But regardless of that confusion, you have this stability, and you can assess this. So, you know, with all the allegations, for example, I mean, I can assess them as they are. So, you know, this is not me feeling suddenly guilty or asking for forgiveness or begging for I don't know what, but it's me saying I'm a victim of the totalitarian state, because the actions taken against me are typical of the actions on the part of the totalitarian state. And This does not make me less a victim, but this is the truth, and it keeps me strong spiritually. So, you know, if you think of the person who has gone into compromises, and perhaps to all appearances the person is surviving better, but spiritually the person has gone down. Well, I did have a very good feel, like a sort of spiritual positive energy when I was studying with using those little blocks for demonstrations. But then the physical condition, what was being done to my body during the study, even if I could study focusing my attention on the material, still it made me resign from it. And then I also moved my attention to other areas. I think that this awareness of me being the spiritual person helps to live with what is being done to my body. Because if I started my body, if I started considering my body me, or my brain me, then I would feel very bad indeed. And I would have less control over what's going on. But you know, it's me, and I don't know how I can get out of this imprisonment as a spirit to regain my life and my family. Of course, I'm very worried about my family too, but the situation is terribly difficult. Still, I'm the spirit. And this helps. Does my answer satisfy you? I believe it does. But I have a different question for you. Do you feel Scientology is a burden? I believe it could be viewed that way, because the current society is very hostile to Scientology. And before, I believed that it was because of the PR. Scientology has bad PR. Then I thought it was because the church had bad PR. But finally, I arrived at the conclusion that the real reason is the freedom the Scientology gives. The Scientology practiced correctly. So you know, the truthful person, the ethical person, the honest person is considered a burden. And in my life, this is what comes with Scientology. Obviously, it had come earlier with the Roman Catholic Church, but I must say that originally as the Christian, I was pretty weak as a person. That's what I think. I was not self-confident. I was unthinkably shy. I had a totally sick inferiority complex. And through Scientology, I have handled all this. So, I have the certainty of my value coming from real life experience. So, this is not because, I was magically born, which is good enough. But this is actually the decisions you have taken in life, your attitude to your job, the way you did your job, and if you are honest about it, if you are ethical about it, this gives you stability and the sense of self-worth. So, this handles it simply, the actual life. As far as the inferiority complex goes, well, I knew that it was insane because I can assess the situations now. So, if I do not get a scholarship, and this I had been dreaming of since the beginning of my studies, and I create the situation of this not getting this scholarship being the end of my academic life, really. I think this is connected actually, because I do think that they did not want to keep me at the university. Shocking as it is to me, but I do think that this was the real reason. They did not want me there. Then you have this, okay, so what are the reasons why they did not want you there? And then you look at it and say, well, would you agree to do this and agree to do that? And you say, no, I would not. I would not. So, this is not that something is wrong with you. This is simply the gap between ethics. The ethics represented by a certain group and the ethics you live. And the fact that you did not get the scholarship but someone else got it, even if the person, even if we take out the fact that the factor which is probably the true factor, that the person was to get the scholarship, but let's imagine the situation where there is a competition and you did not win the competition, then it does not make you stupid, obviously. It just, this is, okay, so you did not win this competition, someone else won this competition, it's all. And there can be all sorts of reasons, like, they had some key and the person was in the key and you are not in the key. It doesn't even mean that the person is on the whole better than you are. Perhaps they wanted a person who would agree to certain things and you would not. So, on the whole, during that period when I was a Christian, I was not able to think that way at all. And with Scientology I got this. And I also know that this sort of attitude is pretty irritating to people who do suffer from inferiority complexes. But then you have to have the correct assessment of the situation. So, okay, they hate me, and I know the Assanges probably will be attacking me as long as I will be saying that Scientology is great. Well, what can I say? One day there come Russians and they will be attacking you as long as you speak Polish. So what do you do? Okay. How about the whole philosophy? perhaps I could link it to the next question. Do you feel Scientology is detrimental to your life? Just think of the philosophy or technology or whatever you want to call it. Well, there are certainly some problems in my life which result from my getting involved in Scientology and accepting some ideas. For example, in Dianetics 55, you have the technology of accenting the positive. And I went far enough in that life to neglect the negative. But then, the Scientologists can come and say, well, Agnieszka, but nobody told you that you are to forget about the tone scale at the same time. And I did forget about the tone scale at the same time. So, other things that could be detrimental. I did not go into that, perhaps because I was a Christian and because I was relatively well educated. I mean, very well educated, but that relatively concerning the people with whom I have been in contact, like professors. This is the the empowerment effect, and suddenly you might get into feeling you are a god, and that can be really detrimental to your life because you get trapped actually. So I always somehow I remember when I came back from St. Hill, there was an accident in front of my block of flats, and a dog went under a car, and I knew that it was from what Scientologists call my bank, from my mind, and I was terrified because okay, so you can rephrase it like, okay, so now I will be controlling it, I will be practicing control in every little thing I do, so I will start, change, and stop. And it won't be happening because things won't be coming out of my mind to become reality in the physical world. But at that time, I decided I put my medal from Vatican on because I decided that if I can have such powers, then I certainly need someone wiser than me, and the someone wiser for me was God. So this is the connection I made. And I remember that I also decided then that the actions I do, that they are not to be evil. So I want to have that power when I do good. But I wanted to have this control on the evil actions. Power is very dangerous actually, and it can be self-defeating. Okay, anything else that comes to your mind when you think of Scientology as detrimental, as possibly detrimental? We are talking about Scientology, not Scientologists or the church. Scientology. Well, it does phrase psychiatrists, it does define psychiatrists as it does, and the same concerns the police, and I did not like it, as I said earlier, but having had the experience I have had, and the journalists, and I went into because I did not believe it, so I went into the friendly contact with journalists, and I have the results. So Scientologists might be triumphing. Well, they could be triumphing if it had not been for them participating in it. There is one thing that comes to my mind. In 2001, I received the theta postulate. So this is what they call Tom 40 postulate. And it is about being able to confront anything. And I started doing that postulate at that time. I actually included it in the data provided delivered to the prosecutor's office when I was still hoping the prosecutors were there to do justice and help. So this is a factor in what was going on. I'm not sure if they are at the level where they can understand what it actually means, because the postulate opens the whole history of the spiritual being, which goes beyond the human history. Stop doing the postulate. Right. So how do you stop doing the postulate? If you say, no, I'm not doing the postulate, it might be a counter postulate against the postulate of doing the postulate. It can be a trap. But I see how it develops, because on the other hand, we are living in this terribly difficult historical times. I don't know, we'll see. There's a problem when we misunderstand something. And I think I did a terrible thing to my dad when I considered his suppressiveness towards me. And at the time I was incorrect in the technology. Many Scientologists are. So if that happens, then people suffer because they get the label of suppressiveness, and it's so unfair. But as soon as I realized it, I straightened it out. And if something is done to the people without the person's knowledge, then there's something wrong also with it. My dad did have some suppressive impact, saying that without him I would not be able to do anything or something like that. It's not important if he was correct or not. It seems he was pretty much correct, but all the same, that was suppressive. But then, there's the whole area of his being totally social. And the person handling me should have told me, okay, now check the list of the social personality traits. So, this is actually the person doing the handling responsible for it. Don't go around saying this person is a suppressive person and that person is a suppressive person. And, this is why all this is happening. Um, so I think that some people get even, very high Scientologists get into all sorts of traps due to misunderstood concepts, and certainly they misunderstand the whole control thing. Pan-determinism. You cannot be a Scientologist with the purpose of fighting suppression and be an anti-Scientologist at the same time, creating suppression on the people who are Scientologists actually. So when a person, an OT, takes control of his pre-clear, he's actually suppressing them because they are depriving them of their self-determinism. And but this is out there, so this is a misunderstood of control, and the worst of all is the postulate. This is an intentionally causative thought. So if you write a book, you are not making any postulates. You are writing a book. You are creating a story. This is a fiction. But then, if you put your universe, all the powers you have, into the belief that whichever sentence you write becomes a postulate, then all the sentences that you write become postulates. But this is not the definition of the postulate. You made the postulate that whatever you write becomes postulate. Do you understand me? Okay, Agnieszka, I can see you are thinking, so perhaps you should not think too hard. And let's move to another question. Have you ever been forced, or has there been any pressure exerted on you concerning disconnection from your family members? If yes, how do you relate to it? I did feel that my mom was being framed into an antisocial influence in my life. But I never said it, and I always rejected it. So I a long time ago I did assess her tone incorrectly, but this is an incorrect assessment of her tone. But I never said that she was actually a suppressive influence in my life. And I did feel that the Scientologists were trying to superimpose that on me. On the whole, the way I view it is the technology says that this connection is discouraged. That we are being discouraged from disconnecting, that we are to handle. So this connection is the last resort action. And this is, I believe, the way I view it. Obviously, we are not talking here about the situation I have been put in, where there are people, connected to my body, and I have nothing to do with the people. So all of them are actually suppressive. And some I might live with somehow, and some are just complete, total suppression of life. So you would say that the church does it actually. I think the church does it actually. I think that, basically what the church expects from you is the negotiation with your parents, where they agree that Scientology is something great in your life. And when they are critical, no matter whether they are right or not, they can become targets. But for me, I mean, I don't care if my dad or mom loves Scientology or hate it, because it's their right. They might have different spiritual journeys. They might be traveling different spiritual paths. So it's not my problem. And if they get punished for this, then obviously there's something wrong with the church, because everyone has the freedom to like and choose what one wants, and to dislike or even hate and reject what one does not want. I think that one of the misunderstood in Scientology, not in Scientology, among Scientologists, is the concept of all the people who do not like Scientology being antisocial. And how do they know Scientology? I mean, they know it through the activities of the Scientologists, and from my knowledge of the activities of the Scientologists, Scientology is really terrible. But then, some say that this is exactly how we know that Scientology is terrible, because we've been observing you. So, obviously I'm a target. I've been a target for a long time. And still, So, let me understand you correctly. You are for this connection or against it? Well, if you have the abusive dad who has been molesting you sexually since childhood, then I have no doubt. Now, obviously this connection as soon as possible. If your dad is a criminal, and many situations which are critical to life, then I would be definitely for this connection. Your dad can be a criminal Scientologist. But otherwise, if this connection is understood as, you simply cut all contact with the person, then I don't think I would advise it. But in the cases where because such parents happen, I was lucky enough not to have such parents, but as such parents happen. Okay. Do you actually believe in Scientology, or are there any other factors that make you call yourself a Scientologist? Do you believe in the, what was his name? Are you afraid of bees? No, I'm not. I mean, I know that one needs to be careful because they have stings. That I don't remember the name of the person, the extraterrestrial, I believe, superpower, that makes all Scientologists go silent or terrify or act weirdly. And I remember watching an interview when a Scientologist started behaving really like, he didn't want to talk about it. So indeed, the person doing the interview did invade his freedom in the interview, because if someone says that we don't talk about it. So this is like there comes a priest for an interview, and obviously he can talk generally about some things, but at one point the journalist doing the interview asked him, so what did the president say? Well, I'm sorry, but this is the secrecy. Oh, come on, what did the president say? I'm terribly sorry, I cannot talk about it because these are the rules. And it goes on and on. So at one point, but the situation of which I thought how the person should behave. Well, Mr. Journalist, so now I'm asking you, give me the names of your sources. Will you? No, you won't, because these are the rules. So if the rule is that you are not talking about something because it's secret, and you know about it, and you have signed the code, then it takes really good reasons to start talking about it, because it might be like you have been the president indeed, and about genocide, and at one point you decide, okay, that's it, I'm going to publish it, and to hell with it, it must end. So there are such situations, but these are extreme situations, and you cannot expect it in an interview. But the thought I had when I was thinking of the interview was that that my source of Scientology must be different. So I believe that there is some situation in the extraterrestrial world where there is Scientology. There's the source, and it might have some sub-sources through which Scientology has traveled down to the planet Earth. And I believe that the Scientologists who have this concept of this terrible, terrifying beingness, this actual person who scares them to hell, have a different route from mine, because I don't have it. So I don't have the slightest. I know that there is this philosophical assumption of the free person being able to perform good and to do good and do evil as a as the ability. But I don't have any connection with Scientology as connected with the Satan or whatsoever satanistic ideas or evil actually. So, and from the very beginning, perhaps this is why I have this conflict with the Church of Scientology, because this is Scientology and this is Scientology, and this is like a different culture, and it's not here on the planet Earth. So, do you actually believe in reincarnation, for instance? Absolutely. Recently I have been going through all sorts of physical experience, and I believe that the purpose is to make me lose the faith. All these spiritual things are real delusions. But I do not recall the experience in my mind from the spirit, so to say. Okay, so I'm the spirit, and now I want to remember what I was doing in 1914, for example. So I don't have this. My access is blocked. Sometimes I wonder if I was on the planet Earth actually. But I believe that this is, it has always, I mean, since I started thinking about it, it's been a natural concept for me. You know, that this is the cause of life. But this was, you know, very delicate and very normal. Like, you get born in a body, you live in the body, you leave the body when the body is, well, must die because I know it's sick or it's devastated, it's too old, and then you take another body. And but you know, this was the natural world where people were born, and there were no chemical interferences with the whole process or physical interferences with the whole process. So now it's really difficult, so I believe that many spirits get trapped. And I'm not sure how babies are being born now. Okay. Do you believe in the reactive mind? You mean the idiot that has been totally ridiculed, that has been being totally ridiculed by Assangists and other anti-Scientologists. I think I do, but I also believe that the analytical mind, and especially the spirit, can be in control of it. So I think that there can be, this is how Scientology can be dangerous. But if you assume that it always works so if you assume, okay, so now I'm drinking this Żywiec beer, and you know, my consciousness goes down, so I'm slightly unaware, and obviously my body is in pain even if I don't feel it. There's a big question, how come I do not feel it? But it has been torn inside. So this is already an engram. Since the very beginning of the situation, around the 15th of March 2016, I have been living an engram. And there have been other situations earlier, but not of this scope. And this is, this is constant. And this is recording, so I cannot imagine what kind of auditing I need to overcome that. But then you have the spirit that is over it. So the spirit that is over the physical, all physicality, including the memory that has whatsoever energies in it, subtle or more massive. And I believe that the trap Scientologists might get into is that, so whatever, I don't know, next time I look at this light, I will feel drunk. And I believe that, if you really take this, if you really think of it, because, it's part of the arrangement of what I'm doing now. And I do not think that it works that way. So, I don't know, there must be a slightly different situation of the trigger. And, the extent to which the reactive mind really controls your life. And other factors that make you call yourself a Scientologist. No. Actually, no. I'm not a great fan of auditing, I must say. I mean, I loved assists. And there are other processes which I would probably be happy delivering. But And you know, they might say, oh, there's something wrong with it, because auditing is actually the key to Scientology. I think there's more to Scientology than auditing. You know, well, yeah, that's more or less what I wanted to say, I guess. Okay, Agnieszka. Let's hear the music of the spheres and other noise and the noise. Do we have any other questions? Are you going to start a mission in Poland? Not right now. This is definitely my condition. The Church of Scientology needs to get ethical and start acting in agreement with the law. As long as there are irregularities, it won't have my consent. Okay, Agnieszka, thank you very much. You're not quite welcome, because journalists have proved too dangerous when welcome. So, but I won't say thank you for having me either, because with journalists it can also bring some associations I would not really want to have in my life. Thank you.